You remember the silence that followed when they walked away. No explanation, no apology, just the echo of your own heartbeat in a room that betrayed you. You sat there, chest tight, throat raw from words you never spoke, power draining through your fingers like water slipping between cracks. In that moment, something shifted. The realization that their respect was never yours to earn, it was yours to command. The raw edge of humiliation cut deeper than any insult. It made you see the truth. Weakness is not what happens to you, but what you allow yourself to feel. They called you naive for trusting. They called you soft for caring. But softness is a choice, and trust is a transaction. Every second they hesitated was an offer to take more than they deserved. You felt your center wobble, the ground beneath you fracturing. Yet in that fracture lay an opening, a slit of possibility, where growth and cold clarity could slip through. You didn't need to understand why they left. You only needed to see that their departure revealed your value. When your presence no longer begged for permission, their absence became a confession. Pause. Let the stillness settle like a weight. Feel the tension in your spine, the questions in your veins. This is not inspiration. This is confrontation. The raw, naked truth carved into your bones. Respect is a language spoken in silence, in the absence of reaction. If you stay silent long enough, they fill the void with doubt, first in themselves, then in you. You become the question they can't answer. If this resonates, if the cold clarity courses through you, settle into it. Comment below the moment you stopped chasing their approval. Let your silence speak first. And if you're ready to wield your own authority, subscribe now and join the ranks of the unshakable few. You felt the first tremor when you stopped explaining yourself. The air around you changed the moment you let questions hang unanswered. Like knives left to dull in silence, they pressed, seeking your reaction, an apology, an admission, any tremor of vulnerability to exploit. But you offered nothing. You straightened your spine and met their gaze with the stillness of a predator. In the void that followed, they flinched. You tasted something new, the raw power of being unknowable. Remember the time they tested your boundaries, pushed and prodded until you snapped like a splintered branch. You laced your shame with anger, and it burned you from within. But anger is a flare, and flares fade. Instead, you cloaked your anger in a calm, so absolute it mortified them. You didn't shout. You didn't storm out. You simply tilted your chin higher and let your absence fill the room with question. They called you cold. Good. Coldness cannot be manipulated. In that cold, you learn to speak without words. A glance across a crowded room, an unblinking stare at a liar's confession, every minute detail became a weapon of presence. They wanted explanation. You gave them silence. They needed closure. You offered indifference. Watch how they contort in confusion when your face betrays nothing. They will chase an answer you will never deliver. That chase is your dominion. Pause here and feel the weight of your unspoken truths. The tension you create is not chaos, it is order. They will scramble to restore balance. To placate the uneasy tension you own, they will bend, they will bargain, they will betray their own convictions to find peace. You hold the terms. Think back to every wound they inflicted, the betrayals, the gaslighting, the nights you lay awake inventing dialogues, every imagined comeback, every dagger of what ifs it was practice. Now watch as you deploy that practice without flinching. When they smear your name, you offer no defense. Each rumor becomes a testament to your reach. They believed you fragile. You proved them wrong. They said you'd break. Test that. Stand in the silence of their doubt. Let your calmness become an accusation. When they call you distant, smile inside. Distance is the fortress they cannot breach. They will trespass until they bleed. Then they will learn to respect borders they once crossed without thought. No excuses, no soft edges, only the boundless clarity of detachment. You are not here to be forgiven. You are here to command. Command through absence. Command through stillness. Command through the inevitability of your own worth. Let every moment they hesitate remind them. You owe them nothing. They bent when you refuse to play their game. The world demands you react, demands you reveal your strategies like cards in a child's hand. But you fold nothing. Every pause is a move. Every withheld word carves space between who they think you are and who you have become. In that space, you hold dominion. Recall the time you laid your cards on the table, spilled your fears in confession, sought mercy in explanation. They feasted on your scraps, chewing through fragments of your soul until only a shell remained. You learned then, vulnerability is currency, and they are bankers. So you locked your vault. You speak in riddles now. Your intentions are ghost in the machine. They chase shadows, desperate for shape, and in their desperation they kneel. Notice how they lean closer when you withdraw. When you step back from a conversation, they step forward, unsure, unsettled. A simple half-turn of your shoulder forces them to reconcile with emptiness. In that void, they manufacture reasons for your retreat. They invent mysteries. They rewrite history. All because you refuse to confirm their narrative. Feel that power ripple through your veins. It is not coercion. It is consequence. They wanted clarity, and you gave them obscurity. They begged for certainty. You offered only silence. Watch as confusion fractures their confidence. They will second-guess every word they uttered in your presence, every bold move they considered taking. Doubt is the blade you wield. Think of the betrayal that cut you deepest, the friend who whispered deceit, the partner who smiled while a dagger slid between your ribs. You stood stunned, bleeding on the floor of their indifference. But bleeding is proof of life. You harnessed that pain, sculpted it into an armor of unreactiveness. Now, when they strike, their blows glance off polished detachment. They recoil, startled by your impervious calm. In the hush of your newfound composure, they reach for scripts they once wrote for you. Pleas, ultimatums, guilt trips they cower before your stillness. Even the sharpest accusation loses its edge when it falls on a mind that refuses to acquiesce. Presence isn't measured in warmth. It is measured in gravity. You are no longer an echo of their words. You are the silence that follows. Let your silence speak of lessons they never learned. Every glance you withhold is an indictment of their past cruelties. Every moment you refuse to bend is a testament to your rebirth. They project their fears onto your blank canvas. You become the mirror they cannot shatter. They stare into your unblinking eyes and glimpse the consequence of disrespect. This is not about winning their approval. This is about revealing the architecture of your own power. They think they see you flinch. You are unmoved. They think they hear you tremble. You are unwavering. They hunger for your cracks. You remain seamless. In that wall of stillness resides your true authority. They taste desperation when you stop reaching out. The more you retreat into your own orbit, the louder they broadcast your absence to the empty room. They scramble for fragments of you, old messages, ghosted voicemails, anything to reconstruct the person they once thought they owned. Let them sift through the wreckage. In that sifting, they expose their own dependency. Remember the nights you lay awake, replaying every slight, every insinuation you couldn't answer. Each loop fed their power over you, like a predator savoring the fear of its prey. Now, you invert the hunt. You let your thoughts become untouchable. You make your mind a locked chamber, no testament, no confession, no vulnerability to excavate. They circle the fortress, searching for a breach. Find none. Their frustration becomes your soundtrack. Watch how they barter with ghosts of conversations past. They offer kindness for a glimpse of your inner world. They promise change if you'll only open the gate. But mercy is a choice you no longer entertain. In your silence, they see the consequences of their own cruelty. Every overture they extend is met with a measured pause, a calculated delay that severs hope. Pain thrives on expectation. You starve it with absence. They will accuse you of arrogance. They will claim you've become someone unrecognizable. Let them. Arrogance is merely the reflection of their own inability to claim space. They fear your elevation because it illuminates their own stagnation. When they whisper that you're broken, smile inwardly. Broken things can be mended. You are not broken. You are honed. Feel the hum of your own gravity drawing them nearer, like iron shavings to a magnet. Yet you resist. In every moment you could engage, you choose withdrawal. That withdrawal is not retreat, it is realignment. You position yourself at the epicenter of your own world. They orbit around you, groping for relevance. Their inertia is your triumph. They will test you. They will provoke you with half-truths and veiled threats. They will fling accusations like darts, hoping to draw a reaction. But you sit unmoved, the still pool that reveals the ripples they create. Let them hurl their stones. Your silence is the anvil they shatter against. When the echoes fade, you remain. Consider the betrayals you bore in silence, words twisted behind your back, loyalty repaid with indifference. You swallowed each betrayal, tasting the bitterness of obedience. Now practice taste. The sweet clarity of power, undiluted by emotion. When you stop ingesting their toxicity, you transform it. Their venom becomes the steel that fortifies your resolve. Picture their faces when they realize you no longer fear loss. They assumed your world revolved around their approval. When you cease orbiting, they face gravity alone. They will flail, grasping for the tether they once held, but find only emptiness. That emptiness echoes with the lesson you refuse to teach. Respect is earned through indifference, not compliance. In every stolen glance, they seek confirmation of your downfall. In every whispered rumor, they pit sympathy against suspicion. But sympathy is a double-edged sword, and suspicion is a slow death. You offer neither. You fend off their feeble attempts with the precision of a surgeon. Each deflection is silent. Each defense is internal. You don't redirect their lies, you render them irrelevant. They will claim you're heartless. They will mourn the person you once were. Let them eulogize your vulnerability. In death, memories crystallize. They paint you as something noble, something lost. But you are alive. Alive in the austerity of your own making. Alive in the solitude you carve. Alive in the unspoken edicts that govern your presence. Feel the culmination of all your withheld reactions, the amassed inertia of all the times you did not yield. It becomes a force neither they nor you could anticipate. That force is your rebirth. It is not found in grand gestures or theatrical declarations. It is found in the meticulous orchestration of your own restraint. That restraint is magnetic. That restraint is fearsome. Let this pressure build until their narrative collapses under its own weight. They will doubt the stories they told themselves, the myths of your dependency, the lies of your weakness. In their doubt, they find the unshakable truth. You are beyond their reach. Your story no longer belongs to them. It belongs to your silence, your absence, your unyielding will. Here, at this apex, you stand not as a hero or a victim, but as an unstoppable force of silent authority. You have dismantled the scripts they wrote for you and authored your own code, undisclosed, unreadable, absolute. In that code you find freedom. In that code they find limitation. Now, in the hush of your own making, You are unbreakable. They flinch when you refuse to justify your instincts. Every time they demand an explanation, you retreat deeper into your inner citadel. Their demands echo off unseen walls, unanswered, until they start doubting the very questions they posed. In that doubt lies your victory. They expected a reaction. You serve them absence. That absence is your manifesto. Picture the scene. A crowded room. Dozens of voices clamoring for your attention. They lean in, hungry for the slightest crack in your composure, the faintest flicker of desire for approval. You remain unmoved, silent as a statue, impenetrable as a fortress. They lean harder, their faces close enough to see the lie in their own eyes. They search for warmth, only to find a chasm. In that chasm, they sense something violent and deliberate. Your refusal to be owned. Recall the moment they tested your loyalty. They dangled praise like a carrot, withdrew it like a whip. You bent until you snapped. Pain sang through your veins, but you listened. You catalogued every fracture. Each split became a lesson etched into muscle memory. You learned to feel pain without yielding. You learned to stand in that pain, let it sharpen you rather than shatter you. And when they struck next time, their blows fell silent against your resolve. Silence is not emptiness. It is an environment you cultivate. They walk into it unprepared, expecting noise, expecting surrender. Instead, they find a polished stillness that reflects their own desperation. Their cries bounce back like echoes in a cavern intensified by the quiet. They stare at you as though you've broken physics. In that moment, they glimpse the force you've always been. They will try to fracture your silence with accusations of cruelty. They will paint you as heartless, a villain in their story. Good. Villains are remembered. Heroes are easily forgotten. Let them script you as the antagonist. Every story needs tension, and you are the tension they cannot resolve. In that unresolved tension, you reign. Think of every promise you ever broke, each time you withheld the closure they yearned for. Each time you allowed expectation to drown in the void. Those broken promises became weapons more potent than any vow of allegiance. You wielded them without flair, without announcement. A shrug here, a glance away there. No apologies, no regrets. Just immutable consequence. Feel the weight of their unspoken pleas pressing against your chest. Feel it like the hush before a storm. That hush is your dominion. They panic in the calm, longing for the release that only reaction can bring. But you deny them that release. You keep the throttle of your emotions closed. They gasp for air in the stillness, and in that gasp you own the moment. They will test the limits of your indifference. They will escalate louder demands, more desperate ultimatums. They believe pressure will force a crack, but pressure only fortifies what does not yield. You become the unbendable reed, the steel beam that refuses to buckle. In every escalation, your calm intensifies their unraveling. Remember how they flattered you once, praising your vulnerability as if it were a badge of honor. They admired your tears until those tears threatened to drown them. Then they recoiled. Vulnerability is admired until it becomes inconvenient. Now, tear down that false pedestal. Let them realize that tears are cheap currency in a world that values reserves. They must earn your revelations, and they will never have your ledger. Watch as they scrounge for scraps of connection, old photographs, shared jokes, inside references they think will break your armor. You resist. You refuse to relive stale memories. You refuse to give them the satisfaction of confirmation. They project their longing onto those memories, but you have stepped beyond them. Those fragments lie in the dust, irrelevant to the fortress you now inhabit. Feel your heartbeat slow to the pace of deliberate detachment. Each deliberate breath pushes them further toward their own edge. They see you pause, and in that pause they see themselves mirrored, a longing, a hunger for something you will not yield. That hunger is their confession. Let that confession hang in the air like a witness. In your silence, you write a new code of conduct. No explanations, no appeals, no concessions. Every breach of that code is met with the same calm invocation of consequence. You don't punish, you simply enforce. Enforcement is not spectacle, it is inevitability. They come to understand that crossing your boundaries yields the only outcome they've ever feared. Nothing. They'll whisper behind your back that you changed, that you became unreachable. Let them. Transformation terrifies those who remain unchanged. In your transformation lies the cruel elegance of Machiavellian clarity. The world acquires shape only when you carve it, not when you plead for its design. Hold this moment. Feel the culmination of every withheld response and every strategic silence you orchestrated. That accumulation births a force no apology can tame, no plea can contain. You have become the void they long to fill, the silence they cannot silence. In that inversion, you discover your ultimate power, to exist on your own terms, unreadable, unassailable. They waver when you refuse to reclaim old ghosts. Every apology they expect becomes a phantom question haunting only them. You've abandoned the graveyard of past offenses. You let the tombstones stand alone in the dust. In that abandonment, they feel the ache of their own absence, the void where your reaction once lived. They scramble to resurrect your old wounds, but find your vault bolted shut. Their pleas for resurrection echo hollowly against unyielding steel. Remember when they dangled reconciliation like a beacon, sweet words of regret, promises of change. You leaned in, heart open, ready to rebuild the bridge they burned. But the bridge was never theirs to rebuild. You felt the heat of their insincerity. In that heat you forged conviction. You would not traffic in broken oaths, so you listened and did nothing. Silence became your answer, lettered in iron. Not yet. Not ever. Watch them circle, desperate for a sign of life in your muted world. They search for cracks, for the flicker of emotion that betrays softness. You offer stillness instead. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is life distilled into a single, unshakable note. They hear that note and tremble, uncertain if it signals calm or calamity. They do not know whether to flee or submit. In that uncertainty, you hold sway. Feel the pulse of their panic when you shatter their scripts. They expect drama, tears, confrontation, catharsis. When none arrives, they stand exposed, naked before your placid gaze. You become the eye of a storm they cannot navigate. Winds of guilt, frustration, regret swirl around you, but the calm at your center remains untouched. They will learn that storms rage only when met with resistance. Met with stillness, they consume themselves. Consider every cutting remark they flung in moments of anger, the barbs they thought would scar you forever. You catalogued them all, filed them away like evidence, in a case you would never prosecute. Now, those remarks fuel your resolve. They are the mortar in the walls that safeguard your silence. When they attempt to breach those walls, their words ricochet back. Fragments of their own cruelty returned tenfold. They grow quiet, as if struck by their own weapons. In this final act of body, recognize that they are not your captors. They are prisoners of your indifference. Their cages are built from expectation. Your key is absence. You do not free them. You simply withhold the key. They remain confined by their need for your reaction, your forgiveness, your empathy. And in that confinement, they find the harshest teacher, themselves. In the quiet aftermath, you stand apart, no applause, no tearful reconciliation, only the weight of your own resolve. Every unspoken word, every withheld reaction, has crystallized into a testament of your authority. They cannot apologize into existence what you refuse to acknowledge. They cannot reclaim your attention once you turn your gaze inward. Their shadows lengthen in the void you've created, but you remain untouched by their reach. You discover at last that true power is absence rendered deliberate. It is not born of vengeance, nor does it demand spectacle. It lives in the space between expectation and response, where you alone decide which bridges to burn and which to preserve. In this space, you are neither hero nor villain, you are necessity incarnate, a force that corrects imbalance with the precision of inevitability. They will speak of you in hushed tones, speculate about your silence, mythologize your detachment. Let them. Myths endure longer than explanations. Your story becomes legend precisely because you tell it only through omission. You do not offer them a chapter. You offer them the margin notes they can never fully interpret. The final truth settles in your bones. Respect is not given, nor is it shared, it is absorbed. Acknowledged only when its absence fells those who crave it most. In that revelation, you are reborn, not as someone they needed, but as someone they cannot ignore.